Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. Teaching internationally is one of the best decisions you can make as an educator. In this show, we will meet teachers and administrators from around the globe living and working internationally. Our hope is that their stories and experiences will inspire you to explore the world of education. We will learn about all aspects of international teaching, from becoming an international teacher to what countries are the best fit for you, to the challenges of being away from your home country. Come take this unforgettable journey to the world of international schools with Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric. All right. Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. This show started with athletics and activities in international school, and we have now expanded it to talk about all aspects of international education. I'm very passionate about this topic, and I know the people joining me today are also. I am your host, Ryan Sagare. I spent over 10 years as an international educator. I am the co-founder of SchoolRubric, a nonprofit organization that is all about amplifying the voices in education and amplifying the voices in international education. Today, we're going to be talking about the challenges of teaching abroad. Now, I would not trade my years as an international teacher for anything. It was literally one of the best experiences of my entire life. But there are definitely some challenges that go with teaching abroad. And we're going to talk about some of those challenges today. I know for me, it was being away from my mom and my dad. Even just those little things that you miss from home, my certain hot sauces that I always wanted to have with me when I was in my away from home. So I do want to stress that, the positives far outweigh the negatives when we talk about international education. But we do want to talk about some of those challenges so that you can consider them when you're making the move abroad. Now, if you're tuning in, we would love to hear from you, the audience. So drop a comment, drop a question. We'll maybe get to one of those questions after we kind of roll through our prompts today, but we do want to hear from you. It doesn't matter if you're tuning in on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. We want to hear from you. Please share. It's all about creating this community, really. We want to have that dialogue with all of you and create that open discussion so that we can learn and grow together. Today, we're going to meet some of our guests, and I want to introduce you to our guests who are from all around the world today. And before I kind of introduce them and let them talk for a little bit, at the end of the show, we're going to be doing our school spotlight, which is a really cool sort of, we look at a school from one of our guests from around the world. You're going to learn about that school today at the end of this show. So you're going to want to stick around for school spotlight. We also have this amazing community that we've started on a Facebook group. I want to encourage all of you to check out our Facebook group. It's called Global Educators Network. And that's where we can kind of continue the discussion after we get done here. There's more to talk about, which there's going to be more to talk about. But let's meet our panel, our guests. They are literally from all over the world. We are joined by Matt Fleming, who is in Budapest, Hungary. He's part of the Globetrotting ADs, so we're glad to have him, the other half of Globetrotting ADs. We've also got Stefanie, who is in Tokyo, Japan, and we got Jim, who is in Vienna, Austria. Guys, let's hear a little bit from you and get some details about you. So we'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, so this is my 13th year here in Budapest in Hungary. I'm originally from Akron, Ohio in the U.S., so I lived and worked there for a while. I've been overseas now for about 20 years. Before coming to Budapest, I was in Riga, Latvia, so you can tell from the jersey back there. That's an old basketball jersey from Latvia. Spent quite a bit of time there at the International School in Riga, and happy to be back once again with the Global Take crew. So thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you. I love having you guys on here that have been the veteran international educators. We were talking before we got on this show, and it's amazing when you hear these guys at 13, 20 years. But let's pass it to Stefanie, who I don't think has been around as long in international education. She's also, I love it because she's from my neck of the woods, which is the Pacific Northwest originally. So welcome, Stefanie. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm in Tokyo right now, but I'm kind of new to Tokyo. This is my first year in Asia. I'm coming to Tokyo from The Hague in Holland, and I was working at the American School of The Hague there. Right now I'm at St. Mary's International School. I'm originally from Seattle, and my background is really in learning support, special education, creating programs for students that are typically marginalized. So I'm happy to be here.
We love people like you who are sort of in the corner for those students. You know, I see Tara. I hope I got the name right. She's welcoming you, Steph. So you got some support.
Hi.
You got some support there. I also saw Nicola, who's in Japan. So, you know, welcome, guys. And I saw a comment come up from Mo earlier about like, hey, we spent 15 years abroad and we're back home now and we miss it. I share that sentiment when you go home and that's why I'm so excited, because I still kind of get to go to these countries by talking with all of you. And Jim, let's hear about Vienna, Austria, and where you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm in Vienna, Austria right now. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a Mexican American from there. And I initially jumped off to Madrid, where I could linguistically make better sense out of being international. And then I tackled German and living in Vienna, Austria. And I've been doing that for, I think, 12 years now, something like that. And in the last 3 years, I started consulting, doing design thinking consulting. And it's given me the chance to go to schools all around the world and visit them for a week or more in many instances. So I've been in Asia in schools, I've been in Africa, North America, and throughout Europe as well. So I feel that even though I've been in Vienna for a long time, I'm now getting that global touch that this is the cornerstone of this show.
Well, bienvenidos, Jim.
Yeah.
Estamos muy felices que estás aquí con nosotros. We're so happy that you are with us today. We are incredibly grateful to have your perspectives from all different parts of the world. Today, we are talking about the challenges of teaching abroad. There are many challenges, so we're not going to get to all the challenges. We're going to focus on 4 of them today that are related to international teaching. Before we look at those challenges, I want to encourage all of you, like, subscribe, share it out, do all the fun stuff that goes with social media. You'll see right there. Subscribe and follow us on SchoolRubric, where it really is about kind of learning from each other and growing that community. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our first challenge, which deals with kind of the business side of education. Let's roll it. Let's roll it.
The business side of education becomes clear. Some international schools are for-profit organizations, while others have a non-profit status. However, in either case, nearly all international schools are private organizations, meaning that their continued operation is a function of student enrollment.
Let's talk business side. Let's talk the money aspect of things. I mean, it's a reality for schools, right? A lot of schools need to make money. They need to be financially stable. And there's actually some positives that can kind of come that go with some of those, with a school being run like a business. I had the opportunity myself to kind of step into different roles and to do different things because, they were, trying to either save money. I remember my first IB position was kind of a result of like, hey, we need somebody now. And so I got that training. So there are some real positives that can come out of that for some people actually moving into leadership type roles. But then also there are some challenges and I know that sometimes saving money comes at the expense of teacher well-being, what's best for the students. So Matt, can you just you're a veteran. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Sure. Yeah. My experience, I started off as a public school educator in the States. So that was a completely different scenario than what I've been working at in my last 20 years here overseas. Having worked in a nonprofit organization now, working over in our school, we're a nonprofit institution here, which is I'm appreciative of, because the emphasis becomes on education and providing quality excellence for your students and everything you do in our programming. But along with that comes some pressure, because you want to make sure you're doing the best you can, even though there's not a carrot of a financial reward at the end other than your regular salary and the benefits package, which we get. So I think as a nonprofit entity, we're given a little more freedom in what we can do as educators, with the understanding that you're doing what you can to best fulfill your commitment to the school. So you're committed to an ideology of sorts versus a financial incentive.
Yeah, but there are some, we're a nonprofit, so I'm sure there are some struggles with kind of meeting your financial needs, as it can also be a challenge even when you are an actual nonprofit. What has been the experience with some of you, for the rest of you? Jim, can you maybe talk a little bit about what's the design of your school and what that looks like?
Yeah, we're also a nonprofit school, and strangely, the Marshall Plan is where we started after World War II, and the Allies took over Vienna. It was split up into 4 quadrants, and then in the Marshall Plan was written our school. And so there's been this mandate that has started back since World War II, and you'll find some of these origin stories that are pretty interesting out there. And it starts to define what you're going to see as far as students in your school, and sometimes people have to broaden their net and look to go beyond their original founding and what that means to serve a community, given that you're nonprofit or that you have to watch after business and enrollment, or sometimes you have to narrow it so that way you can actually serve a population correctly. So there's this broadening and narrowing aspect that's often happening as schools try to look at where the money's coming in and out, and also how they're serving the community locally. And for us, founding from World War II and moving to where we are today, we don't look anything like we were back then. And our future is going to be determined by the types of decisions we make as we look at enrollment over the next several years.
Jim, maybe just for some of the audience members that don't know what the Marshall Plan is, maybe just give a quick snippet of what the actual Marshall Plan is.
Oh man, you're challenging me on my history here a little bit. It was a piece of how the rebuilding of World War II, after World War II, was constructed by Americans to prevent another relapse into another world war, like what happened after World War I, where Europe could not dig out of that hole. So we are a literal piece of the economic prosperity for Vienna and Austria. And we have served in a function of giving locals English and a Western education that's helped a small nation be able to have a footprint regionally and globally. And as a very small piece of that, we look forward to being the success from the Marshall Plan 60 years on now. So that's part of the rebuilding.
As you're talking, I'm really interested now to see what all those international schools that actually sprang up as a result of the Marshall Plan. That'd be really interesting to kind of see kind of where they all are. Steph, you've been at a couple different schools. Maybe you could just talk about on what your school is right where you are now and what it was like before.
Yeah. So I specifically was seeking nonprofit schools because I just agree with the model of not trying to make money off of children or education. But I think that there's some unique things that happen on the business side in terms of what's happening in international schools. One of them that I was surprised by when I went abroad for the first time was that a lot of the tuition packages are paid for by the embassy or by the parent's employer. And I just hadn't really thought of that as part of like an employment package before. That's kind of a unique thing that you don't see in public schools, which is where I was coming from. And the other piece, I think, is like they get really creative with things that they're going to bill families for. So, I'm learning support. So I'm thinking about how are students accessing what they need in the classroom? And is that a pay for service, in order for them to go to school and get what they need? Do they have to pay more tuition than other students? Things like services like speech and language or occupational therapy, things like that are usually added on to the tuition. So at the end of the year, I think a lot of the families that I work with have a pretty hefty bill, and sometimes it's covered by the employer, but sometimes it's not. And that's, I think puts, unfortunately, an added pressure on me as an educator, because I know that these families are really putting forth a lot of money. So that's a unique challenge, I think.
Yeah, and that's not something I think. Well, that's not something I've really thought about. But I did know that that happens places, but I didn't really think about it in the perspective because I'm not in that. I've never been in that teaching role where I've been support, where there's that added pressure for a teacher. They sort of feel like they're being paid directly by the teacher, and then there's also probably some added. The teacher has some added. They feel like that they're almost paying you, so that they sort of are a little bit more of a helicopter parent in the switch roles. We're going to stay kind of on this topic of money, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the long-term financial planning challenges that go with being an international educator. So let's roll this prompt.
Long-term financial planning. International school teaching contracts vary greatly by country, so unfavorable contract conditions can have a negative impact on your savings, retirement, currency exchange, and other financial considerations.
Yeah, I've seen so many different contracts when I was applying for schools, and then also when I took positions at schools. And this is obviously a really important aspect is being feeling financially stable. I was one of the teachers where I worked that I really had a great time. I didn't really save a lot of money, but I also had, and then I also saw the benefits of some really good contracts when I was in Colombia. I remember we got paid in dollars, and we also got paid in the pesos. I didn't do my diligence when I went to Portugal, and I think I got into a contract that was really not a great contract with me, and that really did have an impact on my well-being. But let's talk a little bit about sort of this the long-term financial planning, and Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. You actually work with a lot of my colleagues on this. I'm a math teacher besides doing kind of the design consulting and stuff like that. And so I've kind of blended my way into working with people here at my school to do this. So I've got just a very brief story kind of as a good analogy. If you've been abroad and you've been to public events, you might notice that some really big stars are very accessible internationally. So a music act that I might go see in Vienna plays to a small crowd here, and we'll walk around afterwards, and you can go talk to those people, names you would know, where they're playing gigantic venues in America. The same is sort of true just like in size when you're talking about like financial products and financial possibilities that you have. The size of negotiating package is going to be a lot smaller. So you have access to the people that are really pulling the strings of what your contract is going to look like. But in the States, you might be a part of a district that has 3,000 teachers. A really fun analogy is TurboTax.com. Gigantic, and they're not interested in the needs of such a niche market of people like international school teachers and making sure that we can fill out our taxes properly. And then recently I found this site called myexpattaxes.com or something like that. And I think there's several that are in that range. They have the same words in them. And they're small enough that in the same way that I could go talk to an artist after their set is done, I called these guys up and started talking to them about a need that I had and said, I'd like to use your product. What about this idea? And they said, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds great. We hadn't heard of that before. I wouldn't even know where to do that with the taxes with TurboTax. It's such an enormous firm. So a lot of this stuff has to do with size and scale. And so if I'm negotiating a contract here in Vienna at my school, or if I'm looking to do my taxes, everything feels like it's on a personal level, or it's dialed in a lot closer, which is an advantage. But then there's the disadvantage of having a lot of those major resources available to you. I've been here 12 years and I just found this tax site. So I've been looking forever to figure out how to get my taxes done correctly. And now I know. But what was that last 10 or 12 years like? It was stressful. It was hard to understand what it meant to get my contract in, make sense out of a budget every month, make sure I could plan for taxes, and make sure I could plan for retirement. All of those things took a lot of effort to do. And to have people like me, just, colleagues that are willing to pitch in, you've got to learn to talk about your finances with people in your community, your fellow teachers, and make sure that you're getting the things done right and are learning from them and getting the help that they're providing you.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece, right? Is to make sure that you're kind of leaning on the people that have been there and done that, or people that maybe have left, and kind of reaching out to that community to sort of get help, because it is challenging to do. Matt, you're a veteran, so we should probably be able to get some great insights from you.
As I say, especially as a first-time person coming overseas, if you're just moving from the States or from somewhere else and it's all new, so you kind of have a tendency to forget about the financial bit a little bit, because you're interested in traveling, which is going to cost money, or getting set up and getting around. and getting your household set up if you're new. So in terms of the long-term outlook for financials, it's important to really make sure you take the time to figure out what you're going to put away for your retirement, because you're on your own. It's much different from my experience when I was in the States. I was part of a public education retirement system. I really didn't have to worry about it. But when you're overseas, you're almost like working at a private school back home, where you're responsible for yourself. So you have to figure out a way, or maybe the school can work with you. In our region, we're lucky to have some services that are available for our retirement planning, and we can take advantage of.
Yeah, and I think you can help, when you're thinking about long-term too, that might also have an impact on where you decide to go. I know that when I left international education, I came away with a big zero for retirement, but I worked with some people that did some really great job of saving. I did see the other half of Global Take. I'm going to throw it right. Nick, we're excited that you're watching. We're also excited that we don't have you in the room today. So Nick's going to be hosting next week. We're going to be going back to athletics and activities next week. So Nick, thanks for joining us. Stefanie, let's talk a little bit about financial planning from probably an aspect of where
I was
you've been.
definitely nodding along, thinking like, yep, those are all things that that have been hitting home for us as we have transitioned from the Netherlands to Tokyo. I think we learned a lot when we were in the Netherlands. My husband and I learned about taxes a lot because, in Europe, the tax situation is so different than it is in the USA. And also learned about tax breaks for expats, which I think if you're thinking about going abroad, that's something that you should, look into where you're looking and see what kind of tax breaks they have for expats, because you can sometimes benefit quite a bit from those. And then when you're looking to go somewhere else, like really think about what are the taxes going to be on your income, because it's huge depending on where you're going. I think other things that I've learned recently are about like major medical things. In Europe, the medical system is so different than it is in Asia, as it's different in the US. So thinking about like medical insurance and the cost of medical procedures and medicines and stuff like that is another complication or challenge that I've been facing. And I think, the retirement savings, I know people who've been abroad, and I've only been one other place, but thinking about the fact that when you retire, you might have to go back to different countries and kind of reconcile your retirement accounts or access funds that you've put away. And I think in general, just like having bank accounts around the world is a challenge. It's hard to to navigate all of those different financial systems. So something to consider.
Yeah, thinking about those bank accounts everywhere, and then we're gonna talk about that. As in future episodes, I hope, is just, I had the challenge of the exchange rate. I know that when I first went to Brazil, it was 1.7, so I was super excited about my contract. It was a great contract. Fast forward 5 years later, it was 4 point something. So literally, I saw my savings just dwindle as a result of the stability of the economy in that country. So you bring up a lot of great points. We're going to get into our next prompt, which is inconsistent leadership. So let's roll that prompt.
Inconsistent leadership. The average tenure of international school directors is less than 3 years. This alarming statistic means that by the time you leave the school, the director then will probably not be the same person that hired you in the first place.
Man, talking about leadership, in my last 8 years of international teaching in Colombia, Brazil, and Portugal, I saw 5 different directors. So that gives you an idea of kind of the turnover you get with leadership. Let's go ahead and talk about some of this leadership, Matt. Let's go to you, who's the veteran.
Yeah, I think it depends on the leadership situation. I think it depends on your school's situation. Like where are they at, and what kind of leadership do they need? Are they evolving? Are they a growing school? Have they gone through a crisis of some sorts? So that'll dictate like what kind of leader you're going to get in terms of if the school is looking for somebody new. I've been fortunate here. I've only had to work for 3 directors in my time, so the average stay has been in the 4 to 6 year range, which is pretty good. And the reason they'll stay on will a lot of times depend on what the long-term goals are of the school. and their relationship, of course, with the board and how they operate.
How
There's a lot of parts to it.
Yeah, so you're in a nominally with kind of it looks like you're almost like at a 5-year average. What's been the experience for the rest of you? Jim, what's kind of been your experience with the school you've been?
Oh man, in the first 12 months, there were 3 different directors. Someone who hired me and was on their way out, someone who got canned in the middle of the year, and then an interim. Yeah, it was scary. And your heart will sink as you see those. So let's say it's even in a normal cycle, which is that more 4 or 5 year range. And you're feeling good about that. And then, or if you're in a fast turnover with some interims in there, you can feel it inside your gut, guys. It's an emotional experience because you're unmoored as that change is taking place. And you don't know what your stay in that country or community is going to look what will be next. So in one aspect, there's that aspirational part of what that school's going to become next and what you get to turn it into, versus your human experience of finding stability and homeostasis within yourself. And it can take a lot out of you to watch that turnover happen. And so you often see that reflexiveness of a faculty turning over as a new director's coming in, because they need to take control of themselves again. A faculty member may need to make the decision themselves to move on and not be a part of that next generation. So it can take a lot out of you, but it's also very promising to see that new leadership can come in and make positive change.
Well, also thinking, kind of in terms of if you're looking for a leadership position, there's some really great opportunities to kind of jump into some leadership roles in international education as people because it's constantly rotating and moving and things like that. And so I think sometimes it's a really great opportunity for communities to hire within, because those people have a pulse on the community. They know the parents, they know sort of the community that they're in. So it's a great opportunity for teachers to step into those principal roles, into those roles in a leadership position. Stefanie, what have you seen?
I've been pretty fortunate to have directors who have been like longer term. I think even like 20 years they've been in the same place. So so that hasn't really been a huge factor for me. The main thing for leadership that I've seen turnover is more in like my principals. So and I think that can be pretty challenging, because you then have like initiatives that were underway and maybe initiatives that then get to the side, and then there's new initiatives, and that whole idea of like follow through on, or initiative fatigue, which a lot of us feel. And then in terms of like building programs for students, it feels like sometimes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because there's some new coming in. And one thing that I really learned was the importance of writing things down and having like a paper trail of things, because if you have a conversation with one principal or one leader and then they go, then like there's nothing permanent that's going to continue to move things forward. So as a teacher, practitioner, it can be frustrating to then start from zero again, or that's how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about in international education, that sort of suitcase curriculum, right? We get, everybody wants to come in and bring their idea, their way of doing things, and that can create a lot of stress for teachers, because you're constantly having to adapt to your leadership and what they're kind of pushing on their staff. Let's talk about something really important, which is student support, and why we're kind of all in this business of education. It really is about the kids. So let's talk about some student support as one of the challenges of international education.
Lack of student support. Accommodating learning and physical disabilities are not a priority in many international schools. Students in need are simply not admitted or left to struggle to get by.
Yeah, one of the positives for me with student support is a lot of places where I work, we did lack student support internationally, but I did learn a lot about kind of the needs of different kids and different issues that they were having, and kind of really brought those into my own classroom. So that was a real positive about that. The negative, of course, is sometimes kids aren't getting what they need, and and that's unfortunate. In some countries, there's some stigma that's attached with getting special needs help. In some cases, there's just not the finance. That's the first thing when you're looking at a school and the finances, they kind of cut that out as one of the first things to cut out. So, Stefanie, we're going to go to you because I know you work specifically in student support. So, can you just talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I think that the challenge is there, and that international schools are unfortunately quite behind public schools in the U.S. at least, and probably in Europe and Asia too. I think that it's kind of hasn't really been a focus for many years. So then there's just, they're behind the times a bit. But as a learning support teacher or special education teacher, I'm often around colleagues who talk about how they're pushing forward, and they're hired by schools to create policies, to work with admission directors to kind of be more inclusive in practices. And there's a huge movement happening, luckily, to set up more programs for kids. Unfortunately, I think that there still is quite the model of, this is what we do at this school. We are high academic, high rigor. If you don't fit that model, then here are your other options. So I think we're headed in a good direction, but it's definitely a huge challenge compared to, I think, where a lot of teachers are coming from if they haven't been abroad before.
Yeah, and we want to go into this deeper because there's so much to kind of peel back with this. When you're dealing with different countries and what that looks like. I know in some, some countries it's almost like they kind of don't want to admit that because they want to be a high achieving academic school, and kind of by talking about the special needs and the program of special needs, it may not look as the real high achieving schools. So there's so much to unravel here. Matt, what's been your experience in Europe with support for special needs?
Yeah, from what I've seen in other schools, not just in our schools, my wife was hired on as the first middle school one they had here at the school. Mm-hmm. So she was able to develop and create that program. And they only had really one other person. And now there's the growth of, I think we're up to 4 learning support folks in our building, and there's going to be 2 more coming in next year. So I think it's a growing phenomenon because schools have to address that they can support kids who have special needs. So I think it's in the school's best interest if they can grow that way, if they can support, bring in those extra people to make the school more attractive, and as well as to support those types of kids, because you don't know who's going to come in. You don't know who's going to come in that door, or when families get transferred into the country, what are their kids going to be like when they come in? What are they capable of doing academically? So I think it's an ongoing trend, and I think it will continue on in international schools.
Yeah, I kind of jump in because I think there's also a huge push from the employers. Like, there's a family who wants to come to a certain country, and the embassy or the employer is saying, oh, but they have a child who has learning needs. Is that going to be able to be supported by the school? And so there's luckily a push from the other side too, not just from families.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that it is kind of in the upward trend. And again, there is so much to unravel. There's we were just talking about special needs, but then there's this whole element of English as a second language in these schools. I know one of the challenges that we had was dealing with that, and even just testing correctly for kids to make sure that it is actually a special needs issue, not necessarily an English issue. Jim, can you talk a little bit about this with your experience?
Yeah, you two nailed it. But to add a bit of language to it, we international schools can be very selective about who we choose to make sure that we get the great scores in IB things, or we can be more inclusive that demonstrates that added value to say that we can turn really neat kids into the high performing ones, as well as take the ones that were already going to go there in the first place without support. And so it is a huge trend for sure. And I'm really excited about it. It's actually revolves a lot around my consulting work, is about inclusive education and how we are able to plan. But that depth of planning is hard work. And that's, I think, how we ended up so far behind the US. The amount of resources and time available to us and initiative to go do it. We don't have to onboard students of a variety of backgrounds. We instead can be selective. And so it's easier to do that than all the depth of planning that it takes to make that happen. And that can be a real stressor for sure. So yeah, I don't know. It's an enormous topic, and I'm really excited that we're heading the right direction as an international community for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple topics there that we need to dive deeper into. This idea of inclusion, the idea of school student support, and those are going to be two topics on Global Take. So stay tuned. We are going to go way more in depth on these two subjects. But as I promised, we are now heading into the later part of the show where we are going to spotlight a school, and this is a really exciting piece of Global Take where what is your school story? And today we are going to travel all the way to Europe to spotlight a school in Europe. So let's roll the intro. It's time for School Spotlight on Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric. Let's learn more about the stories and information from schools around the world. What's your school story?
All right. Showing up 60 years old, the American International School of Vienna, weighing 797 students and about 100 teaching faculty. I want you to know all about AIS Vienna. It's a fantastic school that I'm really excited to be a part of for about the last 10 years or so. And it's a medium-sized school where you have a lot of opportunities in order to build into the hired position that you're in. Given its medium size, it has a significant amount of resources available to you, but it also has, as someone coming in, a lot of potential work that you can do in a department to build your own story and to create something new. This is probably my favorite thing I've ever heard about this school, to choose AIS Vienna because you want to build something new. It's really exciting. So with that in mind, check out this big, beautiful campus that we have here with this old villa in the top right corner, our Hall of Flags, and a lot of really neat opportunities as our diversity is a strength, our linguistical diversity, our staff, and our student diversity is an amazing piece of who we are and what makes us a unique spot, not only in the world, but specifically when you think about what the other schools look like in Vienna, Austria. So it's a unique place that is well known after these many years. I also have to say that there's my daughter and myself and a friend of mine, a teaching colleague, Gonzalez. We find this place, many of us, as a wonderful way to raise a great family. It's a place where your own children, if you are raising children internationally, you can get to go to school with them, take the same train in or the same bus in or drive in together, but also to enjoy the local area very fully and not have to live kind of the compound life. So you have access to the riding stables not far away, or the climbing center where I climb with my daughter a few steps away practically from the school, and more of the full richness of a city life that you might want. This is that place where you can do it. And we play softball together as a faculty and go visit Matt Fleming sometimes over in Budapest when we can and lose to their team, but we have a great time no matter what. Yeah, it's a great place for sure. Also, just the region is unbelievably beautiful, whether you're talking about other places outside of Vienna, Austria, local restaurants in Vienna, or other nations that surround Austria all the way around us have so many different possibilities, whether it's going to see some culture in Budapest, the beach in Italy, or doing some other things in many of the other surrounding nations. And finally, this is a program I was able to build. So yeah, when you talk about building when I'm talking about building something new or unique at a medium-sized school, we had enough resources, enough students, and enough events to build a broadcast team. So we did live broadcasts for the last 10 years or so, where I was able to do a range of things, including host Jane Goodall for a live talk that we broadcast to our entire community, besides those that were able to be there in the auditorium. Sports events, graduations, all that good stuff. And it started from scratch, and it started from a student idea that I latched onto and we ran with. And it's that type of community that we have here, where if you've got a great idea, you can build that thing. So this is Vienna, Austria, and I cannot thank Global Take enough for giving me the chance to highlight this community that has made my life what it is today.
Thank you for traveling across the globe with us to learn more about international schools. To hear more from international educators and learn more about these fantastic institutions, tune in to our live Global Take episodes as we highlight international schools in our School Spotlight section presented by SchoolRubric. Jim, thank you for taking us to Vienna, Austria. I got emotional thinking about international education when you were talking and about the community, about that piece of family. I mean, what an amazing community that you're in. It just gets me so excited. Are they hiring? I mean,
Claro, gracias, amigo. Come on down.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, that's amazing. And speaking of community, I really want to extend this conversation to our community that we've started here with SchoolRubric. It's a Facebook group. It's called Global Educators Network. This is a great opportunity for you guys to reach out and talk to us who are on the show regularly and our guests that are coming on the show. You can ask them if you want to learn more about the school in Vienna, learn more about maybe the school in Tokyo where Stefanie is or where Matt is, and Budapest. So it's a great opportunity. I encourage you all to go there and join the group and post your questions, comment, do whatever. We really want to amplify your voices and talk with each other and build that sense of community. Next week, we are going to be we're going back to athletics and activities. We're going to have Nick back on the show. I'm taking a break. We're going to be talking about our virtual competitions here to stay. As a result of COVID, we've got a lot of these virtual competitions. We're actually doing a virtual competition here at SchoolRubric. We have a big Kahoot competition. So if you want to learn more about that, you can reach out to us, especially in the Facebook group regarding that. Well, guys, what an amazing show. I thank you so much, educators. You guys are just amazing people, amazing that you're in the classroom really day to day doing all the great work you're doing. We appreciate you so much for coming on. I want to encourage all of you. I see Mark is saying hi from Budapest. Thanks for joining, Mark. Want to encourage everybody to like, subscribe, share this out, get the message out. Let's really expand this community. Thanks again, Matt. Thanks again, Stefanie. Thanks again, Jim. Look forward to having you again on the show. So be ready when we talk offline that you're going to come back and join us on Global Take. Thank you, everybody. Until next time, until next week, next Thursday. Sayonara. Hasta luego. Ciao.
Right. See you guys.
Thank you for watching SchoolRubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.